All right, what's up, everybody? We are here. We're hanging out on my channel. We're just chatting. I'm Jay. I should have added my pronouns. They are they them. But also, I'm with the awesome Sarah and my wonderful colleague, who I don't get to talk to as much. It's been like
I know.
we've been traveling. Everybody's been doing stuff. So the last time I think we actually talked was the last time we did a live stream together, which that was also a Hacktoberfest event.
That's true. That's true.
But
So, got all the homework done in between, right?
I mean, I think so. We promised Hacktoberfest live stream, and then we were like, what are we going to live stream about? And then we realized, oh, Hacktoberfest is almost over. So now, as I'm going to let Sarah talk, so I can share out like that we're live. That's always a good thing to do. Yeah, we're here to recap how the month went and what's going on there. So yeah, Sarah, take it away with answering kind of the first question that I have queued up, which is, how do you think this Hacktoberfest went? Like overall, like how do you think that the organizing team, did they do a great job? Did the community not go buck wild, or did they go buck wild? Was there, that spam problem that we had a few years ago? Like, how do you think it went?
Yeah. No, I think, well, first of all, props to the team because I love the theme, like the vaporwave kind of vaguely pastel, like, I'm looking forward to the shirt. But yeah, I think it went pretty well. I definitely noticed far less of the kind of spam-ish contributions, at least on a lot of the projects that I was maintaining and or looked at. I don't know if that's a representative sample, but hopefully. And I did see a lot more contributions that were kind of one of the, I think, changes for this year was really emphasizing that like non-code contributions also were valid contributions for Hacktoberfest. So seeing a lot of folks add documentation or help out with non-code pieces, it made my heart happy because obviously I like code contributions, but it's really, I think, and seeing especially new contributors do those sorts of things as an on-ramp. And so it seems it's working. It's the it's working meme. Or GIF. I don't know. Anyway, my head basically thinks in GIFs now at this point.
I think that's that's just because we've been in tech too long. At this point, is like everything we do in memes and GIFs. But yeah, I agree with you on that. And I think that one of the things I interviewed Phoebe Quincy, who's a friend of mine and also one of the PMs for Hacktoberfest over at DigitalOcean. And one of the things that she mentioned was that they really wanted to focus on like no code contributions and creating kind of that entryway. And I will definitely say that, yeah, I did a lot of no code contributions. I did some code contributions, but most of them were like on my projects or projects that weren't like Hacktoberfest, ready or accepting. So I think that it's easier to say, hey, do you want credit for this? Even though like, down the road, it's like, if it's a code contribution, there goes a lot of thought into that. Like, I mean, I've seen that and it's not necessarily easy to just be like, oh, hey, I added some code. Can you give me credit for this? Like, do I have tests set up? Do I have all this other stuff? Did I document it? Did I go through my PR and actually like talk about the things that I did? And so a lot of people are like, I'm just not going to bother if I'm trying to get to the end goal, which, for some people is a t-shirt, for some people it's to plant a tree. I just want to get my PR submitted. Like, sure, maybe that's a problem, but also I think that, any little contribution helps. So why not?
Totally.
That being
That's a good
said,
point, though, actually, about the. Sorry. I was
No,
just
go
thinking
ahead.
About kind of the whole, the additional burden or not burden, best practice of when you're making code contributions to have tests, to have documentation and stuff. Like, what can seem to be a fairly simple thing actually does turn out to be a lot. And so maybe it's like kind of hidden scope that maybe then ends up deterring, like, oh, I fixed the thing. Oh, now I got to do all this. I'll go do something else. So,
yeah. Which, by the way, the folks saying hi in chat, keep doing that, and feel free to answer these questions too. I'm gonna just leave them up the entire time. That way, we want to know what you thought as well. So yeah, how was this Hacktoberfest? But yeah, I think that this is an inherent problem. The music is a little high. Okay, I can actually fix that pretty quickly. But I think overall there's like this individual challenge of like, how do I make sure that whatever is being submitted with like the best of intention. Like I feel like you have like two challenges there. You have, as a maintainer, I want to make sure things are good. I want to make sure things are done properly, make sure things follow a standard, make sure things follow my style guide, my contributing guide, or in all of those things, which, by the way, let me know how the music is now. And then the other side of that is, as a contributor, I want to make sure that I'm doing all of those things. And in Python, we have kind of a community where like we have our favorite linters, we have our favorite systems, we have our favorite things. There are tools out there that make some of these things easier. But the more tools that exist, the harder it is for beginners to be like, oh, wait, I just wanted to change this code. So now I got to go like install pre-commit, or I need to understand how to use Black or Flake 8. And it's like, is there ever a way that we can just be like, I want to submit my code, and then the code just runs? And we know that the answer to that is CI/CD, but like, hey, you run it, tests run, actions run, they do their things, and then you get a positive or negative before you ever have to deal with like people. And I think that there's, our professional teams think about these things, but I mean, Brian Douglas from Open Source talked about this of like, if you have more than 2 people working on your like project, you're in like the 0.1% of GitHub repos. So it needs to be like just easier, or I guess like taught or reinforced more that these are the things that we need to do, or these are the things that we can do.
Yeah. That's honestly part of what I'm excited about with code spaces as well. So
yeah.
I will defer a rant about how much I love code spaces to later. / also check out GitHub Universe, because I have a talk about it. But like reducing that friction, both because like I have meta lists of tools, because anytime I see someone using a cool new linter or pre-check or something, like I'm like, oh cool, let's add that to the list. And now like when I start a project, I'm just like paralyzed by which combination do I use? But when you do set that up for a project, being able to like just point people to like, here's a URL, if you start it up and you edit your code here, everything will work. And then those those checks you can iterate without having to talk to someone, because you're right, people are hard sometimes, and I would rather have a repeated feedback from the machine before I go, somebody please help.
Yeah, people have
not
emotions.
That there aren't people to help.
Yeah,
but just like, yeah.
I mean, people have emotions and computers don't. So it's, unless they're programmed to, I guess. So like you can avoid dealing with the emotional side, and that's not to say void your projects of empathy or compassion, but it is clearly like there are things that you aren't guaranteed to do well on 100% of the time. And I think a lot of those things can be kind of pushed out of the system to make room for other things, which, like, speaking of, we actually have a good comment from Homie Coder of like, Hacktoberfest was an awesome learning experience. My favorite part was a friend walking me through the correct way to structure a repo. And like these are the kinds of things, honestly, we're going to get to like how it was for us as contributors in a second, but that was kind of my goal for this Hacktoberfest was, how do I work to make the experiences of others better during this month when they're really just, like I said, they're trying to reach whatever goal they have. So I guess that being said, let's dive into the next question there, which was, how did you do as a contributor? Sarah, how did you do as a contributor?
Well, I am still working on finishing all of my PRs in traditional Sarah status. I've opened many and helped a lot of other people open many, and I need to finish. So I think I have 2 of my 4 done. But yeah, that's what I will be spending the next 3 days on. But it was slightly complicated, and then my brother got married this month.
Oh,
so
well.
I was a little distracted. I was not coding at the wedding. That was fair. But yeah, I think I did kind of to what Homie Coder was talking about. I did actually walk a few people through kind of the process, like how to make PRs and stuff like that. So I think that was a majority of my contributions were maybe not even. They're meta contributions.
That's interesting, because I think that the more experience that people get in the space, I feel like the more contributions you make are meta contributions. Like, if you're a programming manager, like, is the code that you're contributing to your project your code, or is it the code that like you're helping facilitate through, your direct reports? And I feel like that's I'm going to shout out someone, GPS, on our team. Gwyneth is like super awesome, but talks about this idea of like, do you need mentors, or like, when is the right time to have a mentor? And I think, to me, the better question there is not even, do you need a mentor, but if you are that mentor, how are you ensuring that you are the right mentor for that time? And create, and I think that like things like Hacktoberfest are great for that. Like, oh, hey, it's Hacktoberfest. There are going to be a bunch of people wanting to, contribute code. I'm going to make myself available to help people as much as possible. And that's going to be my contribution. And maybe I'll, contribute to some projects really quick to make sure that credit happens and all that stuff. But, I feel like if we're not doing the thing that says, hey, I'm adding people to the community, one, that takes away from us individually. Like, if we have our own projects, like, I love building projects that people cut their teeth on, because that lets them join kind of my community of developers. So if it's something that's like, oh, hey, all I care about is me, or all I care about is like contributing to like these super advanced projects, which, I mean, again, future questions here. I'm like skipping ahead, I guess. If we're not doing those meta contributions, which John Bonifato, shout out to John. Hey, John. 100% meta contributions are super valuable. If we don't have those, like, sure, we get all the shirts, but ultimately the campaign is a failure because we don't ever have new people joining the fold. I guess
I always feel like I can't get, if I only do like work on my stuff, I feel like I'm never I start a lot of projects too, and I feel like I'm never gonna ever finish everything I want to. And so like, if I can help other people get started on stuff, then maybe we can like crowdsource, like build Pythonesas that can build.
That's
cool
what being
stuff
a
with us.
developer
It's like
advocate
making
is about,
friends.
though.
Oh, is this like friend? This is how you make friends.
Yeah. I mean, being in DevRel is like that sense of, can I just, start a project, share it with people, and hope that they like come hang out with us? Honestly, it's finishing it is optional. Like, that's, we're not worried about that part. We're worried about like the first few parts, but oh, we got some good comments. Hold on. We got someone that says, we're all about helping new people join the Microsoft fold. And that's from Sabio School of Engineering. I think I know who that is. And awesome. Shout out to Sabio, which is a code school up in LA, the LA area that does a lot to bring new developers in. So definitely agree with that. But I guess it's my turn. How did I do as a contributor? Well, I got 5 PRs in. One of them was for my own repo. I don't know how that counted, but okay. But I actually did bring in 4 repo or full pull requests, and funny enough, all of them were the same. I'm gonna throw my screen up here really quick so people can see what we did here.
Is that
Boom.
cheating if you're copying it every time?
I don't think so. All of them were adding code of conducts, which, again, I think we talked about this in the last stream. I built a VS Code extension that quickly adds a code of conduct to a project. And, the thing I did like about this, like, you don't necessarily see it on here, but you can see, like, these were coworkers. Like, these were people who have their own projects. And it kind of was able, I was able to go in and still like contribute in a way that made it more available for other people, and saying like, hey, adding a code of conduct, while it doesn't feel like it's the most valuable of contributions, at the same time, it gave people the ability to like feel like they were welcome to contribute more. And I do know that first project from our colleague Anthony, like, there were a lot of people. I think he said he had like a picture of like his children doing like PR reviews. It was like super awesome. He put it out on Twitter. So
their PRs.
Yes.
Like, that's peak Australian, I think, humor there.
So like when you're doing like any type of contribution, I mean, you call them meta contributions or whatever, but like the goal was to ensure that people were like, hey, I feel comfortable doing this. I feel comfortable adding, code to this project. I feel like my input's going to be valued. I feel like my contributions will be respected, and that most importantly, that I'm not going to be griefed for doing something. And having those conversations, like, it was great, because just talking with Anthony, it was like the original PR that I submitted was, I think it was for like one code of conduct template, and he was like, I don't feel like I can actually enforce this. And I was like, oh, well, let's talk about it. And we went back and forth, and it was like, ultimately, I feel like this one's a better one. Go ahead and like update it to be this other thing. So like it didn't just, sure, it added a few lines of markdown to, someone's project, but ultimately it started a conversation about like actually creating codes of conduct that are enforceable and understanding what those boundaries are. And I mean, I think that, to me, that's, again, better than any, line of code that I could add. Also, we have someone in the chat. Thanks for the COC on my projects. You're very welcome. You're very welcome, Pamela. More than anything, I was like, oh, this should be good. I can do these. But yeah, I'm glad that, the projects that our team put out now, we can now say like, oh yeah, by the way, we also have codes of conduct. We also are willing to enforce these things. So to me, that's super valuable. And I guess the other value there, kind of segueing into it even, is question number 3. We are blazing through these, so maybe we'll hang out here more. How did you do as a maintainer? If I remember correctly, you had kind of a bigger project that you were working on with was that OpenAI like Whisper? Like, I can't remember, what's like Stage Whisper? Is that what it's called?
Yeah. Yeah, which was kind of like a blank canvas. We basically started the entire project a few weeks before Hacktoberfest, so a lot of the Hacktoberfest kind of issues and work on stuff was really that kind of initial bootstrapping of not only getting the project going, but getting the community going for it. So we have been having we've got a Discord, and so it's kind of funny to see, or not funny, but it's always interesting to me to kind of see the breakdown between where people are comfortable chatting with maintainers. Like, from a traceability standpoint, which I need to review some PRs. PR here. Yeah, like there's traceability if you're talking about stuff on issues, and it's a little bit easier for other people to kind of to discover. So I generally, like, as a maintainer, was trying to kind of push discussions to issues, but kind of a lot of what ended up happening was Discord, having Discord chats and stuff, which isn't bad because we're still talking about it, we're still developing it. So as a maintainer, I'm kind of torn about that, because it's like, now if someone walks up, how are they going to find any of the stuff that we talked about? So, but overall, I think it was really fun, and hopefully we've got a few more that are contributions that we've been kind of talking about, and just kind of helping people set up and make those PRs. Because a lot of them were folks that hadn't actually made open source contributions before. So those are always my favorite, because now, not that I have like a cool gold star or anything to give them, but it's like they grow up so fast. Oh, that's a great coffee mug. Oh my gosh. Oh
yeah, this live stream is brought to you by Diva. And I also have like nerf this on the back. Yeah, yes. I love that, a lot of the work was for, the first time contributors, first time like PR folks. I think that's the spirit of Hacktoberfest. It's not, sadly, it's not the like time for everyone who's a, experienced open source developer to come in and, earn a shirt. It's that mindset of like, hey, people who might be doing this for the first time, now you get experience, which I know we have educators in the chat. I'm going to say a thing. It's not a reflection on any of the education, providers. It's the systems themselves. Schools need to start teaching Git like more, and like working with Git, and not just like, here's Git, here's GitHub, there, be happy, but like, here's how we do projects, submit PRs. Here's a sample PR workflow. Like, you're going to need this when you go into, your first job, your first, and further into your career. The fact that like, I've been in the industry a few years, but I've worked with people for the first time this year on actual projects, and there are so many things I still screw up. Like, it has to be very front of mind teaching people. And if we don't, like, if the education systems aren't doing that, then like, how do we expect people to do it? And this is, I'm not here to say that like, developers are just by nature gatekeepers, or the system is like, well, I will say the system is flawed, but the overall issue that I've had being a project maintainer is I have always wanted people to jump in and like collaborate with me, and I've never figured out how to facilitate that. And a lot of that is because I didn't have good examples of how to facilitate that until recently, You start seeing projects like open source, you start seeing other projects where, you know, even GitHub itself started doing like community standards, which I think Homie Coder mentioned community standards now, you know, just having more confidence around how do I actually build my project, how do I build my repo to be something that is going to be of value to other people or even inviting to people. Like, I spent most of my time as a contributor this year finding people and saying, hey, are you doing Hacktoberfest? I'm thinking about building this project. Do you want to help me build it? And I will, like, you know, I'll create the repo, I'll add all the stuff, and I'll sit down and walk with you on how to actually do these things. And to me, that's what helped. That's what actually got people like contributing once. And then I actually had one person say like, hey, I have a couple of friends that have been wanting to get into coding as well. Would you mind me inviting them as well? And see, I knew this was going to happen. I knew that I was going to hit the nerve. It was like, I actually taught Git. Like, yes. Thank you for making this a thing. and yes, we need to do better. Shout out to our colleague Pamela. She's awesome. But that overall feeling of just like, if we're not, to me, Hacktoberfest is more about being a maintainer than it is being a contributor, which I think I've said that like 15 times now. I wish that the like system itself recognized that as well, because I mean, if I bring 4 new contributors into a project, I don't get a shirt, you know, which I mean, again, it's not about the shirt. I don't get the tree planted. I don't get the feel good that like, oh, Hacktoberfest acknowledges me. It is about the actual contributions themselves, which is something that I guess I will say, like, if anybody that's watching this is a part of that team, like, I definitely want to see that. And I think Phoebe mentioned that is something that they're working on, is trying to make it so that project maintainers who, you know, do, you know, X, Y, and Z get credit for some of the things that they, you know, that they've done. But, you know, I feel like I wish I could have done more. I don't know how I could have done more. October was kind of wild for me. There was like travel involved and like a conference right in the middle of it, which some of my contributions were from like talking to people at said conference and being like, hey, I got this project if you want to work on it. But I think that just overall as a maintainer, I want to do more of that. I want to do more maintenance and less contributions.
100,000%. Like, I always find it kind of more useful for me as a maintainer to, you know, do that kind of secondary training and help someone get to the point where I know if they go and start working on an issue, they know what they're doing. You know, I'll see the PR when they make it. But yeah, I'm always torn on this whole Git sort of stuff, because yeah, it does feel very gatekeepy. Like, it is not a great tool, and I think it is reasonable to both acknowledge that it's what we've got at the moment. If anyone has any better ideas, please raise your hand. I mean, it's kind of one of those, like, it's not the best, and I think it's also very dismissive, like, if you are good at Git, or like, you know, people who do use it regularly. Sometimes I do have to check myself, because I'm like, oh, well, it's fine, just like, you know, cherry pick that or rebase it or whatever. And also, those are very small. I am not like no magical Git knowledge here, really. All I know is, when in doubt, get scared and rebase it.
No, when in doubt, delete the project and then just recommit it. Delete your local folder and just git clone again and start over.
Yeah, like, there's always a way you can fix it without doing that, but it's like, nope, delete, try again. But I think sometimes, like, I've seen people just, like, over time after they get good at it, being dismissive to other people, and so like who are trying to learn it. And it's a shitty thing. We kind of need to help people learn it. It is kind of a hard thing, but that is honestly almost all the time I spent both this Hacktoberfest and almost every project larger project I've helped maintain. 90% of my time is helping people understand Git. It is not helping them understand the code base. I
was on a call this morning that was like just walking people through like Git flow of like, hey, let's all collaborate on this. Mm-hmm. Like, let me walk you through what I'm kind of expecting, and like getting questions that I was kind of like, wait, let me think about the answer to this, because like I said, in terms of Git, like for me, if it wasn't, git add, commit, or push, like I didn't mess with it. And I've had to do like cherry picking in the last like couple of months, and I'm like, I hate this. This is not fun. But I think a lot of that process is making sure things can be set up so that you don't have to do those things. Like, to me, the golden path for a lot of people should be something like, pull, add, commit, push, maybe merge, and like those things. But other than that, like if your system is set up and the system that relies on your system is set up, hopefully that will prevent you from having to do much else, which, again, this is now us just griping about Git, but hey, welcome a day in the life of a developer. Like
the ground state energy for all maintainers, right?
Yeah, exactly.
God damn it, we spend too much time doing Git stuff.
Hacktoberfest, why support Subversion? Like, let's go.
I don't know if that's easier though. That was way more confusing to me, but whatever.
Version control in general is hard. Yeah, unless you're putting everything in cloud storage and sharing links, which do not do that. Please do not do that. That is a nightmare that nobody wants. So let's throw it into the last question that we have, and I'm sure we'll hang out on here. What would you like to do more or less in the future? Let's start with the more side. What would you like to do more of in future Hacktoberfests?
I definitely want to do more office hours. I've done that in the past, and I mostly did it async because of the travel and stuff this month, but I've found them very helpful as a maintainer and for like other hackathons where I can just say, hey, I'm going to be on Discord. If you have questions, just drop in and ask them, because I think there's like kind of a barrier of even just like having to schedule something or whatever. But if, just saying, hey, I'm going to be chilling here working on stuff, so if nobody shows up, I don't really care. But just trying to make that even easier for folks who are like, this is kind of their first contribution or whatever, and replying or commenting on the issue might already kind of be too intimidating. So yeah, I am ready to help at any level, but really making it as easy as possible as just drop into the Discord chat or voice chat. I don't know if there are easier ways. Please tell me that you folks like to, that seem easier. Maybe chatting on Twitter. I don't know.
So
but yeah, just kind of having more structured time that people can connect with me as a maintainer.
I think there's two of those that are like, conferences are now starting to do like CFP open hour, like office hours and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And I will always say, as someone who loves conferences, like, let's do more of the things that they're doing, because why not? But I love the idea of doing office hours. That was something that I think I wanted to do, and it just never happened, so I'll double you on that one. Were there any other things that you wished you would have done more of, or I guess you'd like to do more of in the future?
I think in general, being better about kind of providing feedback sooner, even if the feedback is, hey, I am busy today, you know, I'm going to take a look at it tomorrow or something like that. That continual sort of touch points with people, just so that people don't think you've ignored it. Like, I always have anxiety around this. Or like if I accidentally dismiss the notification, but like I really want to kind of try and be better. Maybe it's a New Year's resolution. I don't know. Can these turn into? Is that the next show? No.
I hope not.
I want to be. I mean, I almost, in true developer style, I want to make a bot that automatically does this for me. like, don't worry, Sarah will be getting back to your message.
Sarah hasn't forgotten. It's just stuff is happening.
Or it just adds, you know, reactions or something. Like, because I hate that feeling where you like make a contribution and then like it just kind of goes to crickets and it feels crappy, and especially like in a Hacktoberfest sort of event, because you know maybe they've spent a lot of time, you know, they actually went and learned Git stuff, and then to have it just kind of, I mean, there should be that expectation of, you know, this is open source, there is no SLA, like we are doing this all kind of in our free time, but unless you're paid to do it, but sometimes that part is hard to communicate, and I want to be excited about it with them, right? So
yeah. There's so I think I did this for one project at some point where it was like if someone creates an issue, well, one, the nature of the project was to be like, just if you submit your issues, they're going to get documented and then immediately closed, and it's like not like out of like any bad thing. It was like we're taking in topics. Those topics get stored somewhere else, but we needed a system that we could use as a reference. But the thing was, like, we communicated that using GitHub Actions. Like, okay, when a person creates like an issue with these tags, then do this thing, close the issue, and then send them a message that says like, hey, yes, this auto closed, but here's why. And I think that you could repurpose that to be something like, you know, when someone creates an issue, like it sends a message that's just like, hey, we see you filed this issue. This is a side project, or this is a passion project, or this is a thing that we're doing in our off time. It might take us a day or two to respond to this. Or, you know, if you haven't heard from us in a couple of days, ping us, like send an easy message. Because I agree with you. I think that it's April Winsel from Compassionate Coding actually has a really cool slide about this, where like there were two people talking to each other, and underneath them is like this list of things that they care about, like their expectations, their concerns, their anxieties, their fears, all of these things. And then the other person has those exact same things, but they're different. So being able to have one person effectively communicate, even if it is like through an automation of just like, my worst fear is that you will think that I am ignoring you. So I'm going to make a message that immediately comes up and says, this is my fear. Fear not, I'm not ignoring you. I just only check these like once a day, or once, you know, every couple of days. I promise I'll get back to you. Like, I think setting that expectation up front definitely would be helpful. And again, like we're talking about all of this stuff kind of in hopes that someone at DigitalOcean or someone working on Hacktoberfest will be like, hey, let's figure out a way to like turn this into a thing and then give it as a resource to all of the maintainers for these projects. Because to me, that would be something that I want to contribute to, of like, oh, hey, next Hacktoberfest, now maintainers have a list of resources of things that they can do to make their projects friendlier.
I like that a lot, actually. And also, I really want to make or find, I'm sure someone's already made something like that. Basically, it's an autoresponder, right?
Yeah.
That, like, because I never mind if people ping me again, because, and I find it helpful because, quite frankly, I probably dismissed it accidentally or got distracted. Please
Yeah.
I like my notifications. Give them to me.
Well, and I mean, even in GitHub, like, if you're in an organization that uses GitHub and has tons of projects that you're not even responsible for, they're just for your information, and then all of a sudden you have like notifications all the time, it's easy for something to get missed. Like, I worked on a project that had 150 comments on like one PR, and I wasn't really looking at my notifications during that time because you just can't keep up with all of them. So then I would have to like manually go in and like try to filter stuff out and say like, all right, let me look for stuff and like dive deep into it. And I think that that's a thing that, again, you've got like two different groups of people. You got people who are doing this that are new to GitHub, or they don't work in a collaborative space, so they don't get a lot of notifications on GitHub. And then you got people who do this professionally that are submitting PRs like regularly, daily, weekly, whatever, that are so used to just ignoring their notifications that winds up, having a negative effect on the people who are trying to commit those first-time contributions.
So, at the risk of a side distraction, how does everybody manage their GitHub notifications? Because I find the built-in notifications to not really work for me.
Select all, mark is done.
Yeah. And I have to turn off all the email ones.
Those were never on.
Basically, it's like, yeah, I don't know. Like, it is. I have this as a problem of, I don't know. Like, basically, I have tabs open for repos and I go and refresh, which is not scalable. So like, I know there's lots of third-party tools and stuff, like, I think I looked at one called Ghostly for a while, but if anybody has any pro tips or tools or just workflows that they like for that stuff, I want to be, to the question here at hand, I want to be a better maintainer by also figuring out how to manage this better. Because, yeah, as you say, like, if there's just one issue or something that just explodes, I'm just like, well, we're turning that off for a bit. Like, I know you can mute individual issues and stuff, but like, GitHub Mobile is getting better, but it's still like not the entirety of it. And yes, I definitely, Pam, that's a good suggestion. Go and unwatch repos. I do that basically quarterly. I go through, but sending emails after requesting reviews. Oh, I see. So like reaching out to someone apart from the GitHub system. That kind of makes sense.
But I feel like
actually,
that's like a sign that the system isn't working as expected, though. When I have to, like, the whole idea is like you should get the notification so you don't have to send the email. But if we're just going to send the email anyway, like, that I feel like there has to be a
dismissing the notifications.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, thinking about it, that is often, if I submit something and I know people haven't responded to it, I just go email them or Discord message them. A lot of people will Discord message me if I'm not responding, so or Twitter or something.
So maybe the solution,
screaming for optimization.
So maybe the solution isn't necessarily send an email every time there's a PR, but like utilizing those outside channel notifications that are not email. Because I will say email, we were talking about this earlier, of like not wanting to use certain email clients because it's like, yeah, I just ignore the emails until I'm ready to deal with them. But I think that maybe that's when you do, like, if you're using Slack, like a Slack plugin or a Teams plugin or even Discord, that's like, hey, there was a singing telegram.
I would sign up for that service. I'll give you my monthly. I want someone to come sing to me about a PR. I would go sing to someone about a PR. That would be great.
I mean, Amazon delivers daily now, so like, just drive to my house.
What if we just sent snail mail about your PR?
Well, that
postcards for PRs.
That would set the expectation that, yeah, it's going to be a few days. That being said,
the most cursed idea.
So we talked about like the automating issues. Maybe that's just something that you put in the contributing like guide of like, hey, we expect you to submit an issue, but also we expect you to wait a few days because we do a lot of things. Sorry. And again, I don't know. It's hard because I want people to contribute. I want people to feel like they're being, they're getting the best service. They're getting the white glove treatment. But at the same time, it's like, I can't, at least I can't promise that. So if I can't promise that, then like, what's the next best solution? Which is probably like, yeah, just setting expectations up front and then kind of moving from there. One of the things I would like one of the things I would like to do more next Hacktoberfest are kind of the like sanctioned events kind of things, and finding a way to make it fun. We did our live streams. We did a couple live streams that are just like us actively working on code. I would have loved to have done some that are like, let's get other people across the finish line. Like let's do like an official Hacktoberfest event that is, you have an idea or you have a PR that you want to work on. What can we do to help you get across the finish line with that? Because I mean, one of the things that I learned, just at least on GitHub is, and we're talking a lot about GitHub here. One, we both work for Microsoft, so like we use GitHub. Microsoft owns GitHub, so there's a lot of code that's in GitHub. I think you could probably, swap and replace GitHub with GitLab if that's the tool that you're using. And I think those are the two that Hacktoberfest monitors. But I think there would be an interesting concept to the idea of like credit to everyone who submitted the PR, or credit to everyone who contributed on the PR. Because one of the things I like using now is the commit suggestion in GitHub, where you can start the project, submit your PR in draft, and then start actively working on that project and include other people in it. And then when it's ready to go, then you turn it into an actual PR and you go. And I think to me, that's the better path, especially for beginners, because now you can say, hey, I want to work on this, but I don't fully know how. And it's, obviously there will be people who game the system. They're like, hey, you submit the PR and then I'm going to go in and I'll do all the work. And then, you still get the credit. But I think if you did it that way, everybody gets the credit. Everyone gets a little bit of the credit for that. But I don't know what underlying systems would have to happen there, but I do believe that there would be value in saying, hey, we're going to do this event where you bring draft PRs that you've created for projects that you want to work on, and then we just go through them and then we commit suggestions to help you get across the bar and get across the finish line.
BYOC. Bring your own contribution.
Bring your own contributions. I love it. What about the second part of that? What would you like to do less in future Hacktoberfests?
I mean, I guess it's kind of like a same side of the coin. Someday I would like to not always talk about Git. Like, I don't think that's reasonable, and as mentioned, I do like doing it, but sometimes it does get very repetitive. So it would be cool to work with, like, if there are classes or coding schools and stuff, or there are folks that have that background and are interested in kind of like intermediate level contributions or something like that. That would be cool. It's a positive thing. That's what I would like to do more of, maybe, but I don't know.
I think that's it is a hard one, because I mean we talk about doing more, like, oh, we want more people to join in, we want more people to do these things, and it was like, what do I want to do less of? I mean, I haven't even sat down and like thought about this, and I wrote the question and I was like, I don't know. like
Didn't do your homework again, Dave.
did not do my homework. I mean,
I did not either.
The thing I would like to do less is I don't know. That is tough. Like, chat, what would y'all like to do less of in the future for Hacktoberfest? I want some good answers, because we both need help here, obviously. I think
audience part.
yeah, ask the audience. I think, and I'm definitely going to like cheat on this one a little bit and say, like, I think I want to do less stuff on my own. Like, I mean, whether, again, I think that goes into the, if I work with someone else and they get the credit, cool. If I work with someone else and I get the credit, cool. If I work with someone else and we both get the credit, that's really like the golden path. But I would love to see some way possible to do things collaboratively. Which, I mean, I know literally, like I said, that's just the opposite of what I said for more. Like, I want to like help more people, and like I want to do less stuff by myself. Yes, I get it. It's not even like do less of, but I guess it's going kind of back to the more side. I would like to contribute more like quality of life to like repo improvements. So, you know, this time around I did a bunch of like add code of conduct stuff, but maybe I like to do less YAML. That's a good one. Yes. Actually, I did do some YAML actually. YAML, I mean, okay, I get it. But I would like to do more like adding tests and updating, contributing like documents and things like that. Again, I think that I think the word custodian is kind of a weird phrase, because it's one of those things that, like, just at least growing up in the US, when you think of custodian, you think it's like a great way to say janitor. But like, what happens when you don't have those people? Like, the space just becomes disgusting. Sometimes even with those people, the space becomes disgusting. So like, I would like to have kind of a custodial role in making sure that projects are set up for success. And I mean, I guess if there is a thing I would like to do less, I would like to do less of the, oh, I really want people to work on this, but also this project's in shambles, so I'm not going to make it Hacktoberfest accepted. How about instead I do the opposite of like, oh, this project's in shambles, I'm about to make like 5 issues that just help clean it up. Like, hey, it's like picking up litter on the beach. Like, do you want to help me with this? You get a free T-shirt at the end. Like, that's, I mean, maybe that's one thing I did less. Because I will say, like, I do have some anxiety around like the projects that I write, because I know that they need help, and I feel like I don't have enough time to do them, which is probably a sign that I should start doing less projects. But we both know that's not going to happen.
I was gonna say I should do less new projects, and then I was like, that's just a straight up lie. That's not possible. Like, this whole time I've thought up of 3 new projects that
exactly.
I should work on, basically.
I feel like this is why Sarah and I work so well together, is because every time we get a call, a new repo is made. Like, hey Sarah, we should talk about a thing. All of a sudden there's a new repo on GitHub, and you're like, well.
Now we can not complete twice the number of projects.
I feel like there's a podcast in there somewhere of like all the like the project graveyard. It's just all the projects that we create with the intention of never completing.
Now the question is, what is the distribution of these projects? Like, how many are just like the name and not even anything more. Like,
oh no,
I was trying to clean up. I was trying to unwatch a bunch of my repos and stuff, and so as I do that, I go through and I see all these other repos for things that I started, and I'm like, wow, I didn't even like commit the initial like markdown file. That's rating.
A funeral for dead projects. That is awesome. Everybody go read that, because that is so good.
Oh my gosh. I mean, the problem is when those projects also initially start with buying a domain, and then I end up looking at, like, the domains thing, and I'm spending so much money holding domain names for projects that I'll never do.
I feel like the solution to that is to like create, like, you have to get like the most expensive domain. That way you have to really stop and think about whether or not you're really going to continue that project. Like, if I get like Jay and Sarah's .live or something like that, and it's like $3,000, I'm be like, maybe I don't do this.
Raise that initiation.
The gravestones on the domain names.
That is
that would be
awesome.
good. That would be
like,
good.
Holy shit.
I feel like there's like that's got to be like a README like template type thing of like, take all of your projects that haven't been contributed to in like at least a year, and then it just like pops up a new gravestone with that project's name on it. And then afterwards it turns, like, if you actually work on it after that, it turns into a ghost.
So here's
or a zombie. Yeah, so a zombie.
Something that scrapes the GitHub API for your account, looks at repos you haven't contributed to. Yes. Okay, so just as a laundry list here, we've got the autoresponder for issues, BYOC, bring your own contribution, and we'll help you pull it across the line. And yeah, what happens when you have to dead the deadening project? And but that's so cute. Like, it's also spooky season.
You just make it the logo. That way no one can tell the difference.
Well, but you could have the GitHub API update the project.
Yeah.
You know, like, you can archive it, but like you could update it with like whatever the icon was, but now with a gravestone. You
know those like, the little flags on repos? Yes. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's so good. That's so good.
'Cause there's like auto closer on issues and stuff. Like, yeah, like, because I always feel really bad. Like, I've never actually archived a project because I'm like, well, what about? But if something else closes the issue for me, I'm like, that's okay. Also, don't start any projects with this. No, join us.
Shields.io. Shields.io. Okay, what is this?
Perfect. Oh, Shields.io. Do you not know this?
I don't know this. Hold on, I'm gonna put this up on the on the screen.
This is quality stuff. This is where I always waste way too much time. It's like there's a lot of like kind of pre-made badge. Yeah, it's like stickers for the Yes, it is. But if you go to it allows you to make like entirely custom badges if you want.
Oh,
but if you
very
go to the
cool.
top, there are categories. So if you go to like, I don't know, downloads or something like that. Also, I have so many stickers for my Bujo. That's a separate stream.
I mean, that's a conversation we gotta have.
I have to have a sticker theme for the month. But yeah, so like here, you can copy the markdown for that badge. You know, you can also do this with like GitHub pipelines and stuff. But they have so many different ones here that you can track, like downloads or what's the license or what's the code of conduct. And it just kind of makes like those nice buttons. I love to put those in readmes just because I'm visual. Let's click on the stuff right away sort of thing. I'm much more likely to click on the pretty button than the item words in the bullet.
Oh, that's really cool. Hold on. So we have a project. Pamela and I have a project. See, now I'm like ignoring chat. So if there's anything happening in chat, please let me know.
I'll let you know.
All right. So we're just going to do per month GH issues. Hey, people have downloaded our project, which is like awesome. It's scary. It's always awesome and scary. It's like, yes, we did it. Oh God, what did we do? Oh, interesting. I don't like that. Okay, so yeah, I can already see there being like, that's really, and then there's just a URL, and then
You just copy it as Markdown. Pasta, you're Gucci.
Oh, and it's just an wait, how does it pull? Oh, that's awesome. Okay, yeah, this is dangerous.
But Pam said that we should make PRs to plaster everyone's repos with these badges.
It's like stickers for adult programmers.
I am just dead.
There's that is definitely a thing. I could see us moving into a space where now all of a sudden it's like all of my PRs next year are just finding projects that haven't been contributed to in like over a year and then adding a README update that says this is a dead project.
But does that truly make it dead then?
Oh, Schrodinger's project.
No, don't bring quantum into this, damn it! Ixnay on the @K. This is side 30-second rant. I don't understand why we keep bringing up Schrodinger's cat, because Schrodinger came up with this Gedanken or like thought experiment to show how stupid quantum mechanics was. He thought it was stupid, and so he came up with this ridiculous thought experiment, i.e. the cat in the box. And yet now we think it's awesome, and like he thought about it like as the shining example of it, and it's just like, no, he was using it to mock. So
that's anyway, so funny. So
rant.
the whole thing at the end was like, see how dumb this is? And they're like, that's a great idea. And you're like, oh. It's like, I can't with you right now.
That's my quantum unpopular opinions. But yeah, see ya, homie coder. Yeah, well, what's our closeout wrap up?
I mean, it sounds like our wrap up is like, one, while people are starting to head out, like, do you think you're gonna finish your Hacktoberfest campaign? Sarah, are you gonna finish it? People in chat, are you gonna finish it? You got, how many do you have left? You have 2?
Yeah, I have 2 more to finish. But also, if anybody in chat needs help or wants to help prototype our BYOC,
goes to GitHub now, creates the repo,
checks Google domains for the domain name.
I feel like, how would you even set this up? Is this just like it was like the Gravestone project? I don't know. That sounds so dark.
Yeah. So, yeah, homie coder, if you have other ones, if anybody wants help on any other contributions, just hit me up on Twitter.
Yep. Name is on the screen. Follow Crazy for Pi. You can also hit me up and say like, hey, I need some stuff. I need to get a couple more. I got you. Yeah, see, our next sync is going to be so buck wild. Like, who's making what? But yeah, that's going to wrap it up for us. I definitely want to thank you everyone for hanging out. Thank you for the people that hit us up in chat. And even if you're watching this later, let us know in the chat. But yeah, Sarah and I feel like we have our own little show that just pops up every once in a while. So you'll probably catch us again doing something silly or something wild. But yeah, we're both hanging around the Microsoft's Cloud Developer Advocate space. So catch out some of the stuff we do there. I just did a blog post on the developer blog, and I know Sarah.
Blog. Check it out.
Oh, what's that? Or do I need to? I'm not going to add it to the thing. Yes, I am. I got to type that really quick. aka.ms 311 faster CPython. Yeah, so go check that out. Sarah, you're speaking at GitHub Universe, right?
Yes. So if you are interested in learning more about code spaces or some of the other ways, I've been kind of nerding out about how to better use some of the tools on GitHub to address a lot of the things that we talked about.
It's a BYOC.
But yeah, so I have a talk there showing kind of how to use code spaces for a full end-to-end demonstration of some new quantum computing stack technology, but actually all in your browser. So pretty slick. No one's ever done it before either, so also brand new.
Very cool. Very cool. But that's going to wrap it up for us. Thanks for hanging out with us, and y'all have a great rest of your Hacktoberfest.